Hi everyone and welcome to a new Cisco tutorial. It's been a while since I uploaded a new tutorial, but hey, I had some finals to crush and you know that they get top priority. So this tutorial will be about DHCP. Well, what will DHCP do? Well, it will provide our clients with a dynamic IP address, so that we don't have to configure all our clients with a static IP. If we have like 100 clients, we don't gonna enable them with a static IP. We're just gonna set up a DHCP server and they get IP addresses. So we're gonna start with this first one. This is a relatively easy one. Our router will be our DHCP server, and the switch will hook up all our clients, and all the clients will get automatically an IP address, just like the router at your home. But this one needs some configuration. Well, the port FA0.0 gets an IP 10.0.0.1 and also will be our default gateway for the clients. So yeah, let's get started. Let's get our command line up. We're going to enable, then config mode. And what we will do now is say we want to have a stack of IP addresses that we don't want to give to our client. So what we're going to do is IP DHCP exclude those addresses that we don't want send out to our clients, and say we're going to do 10.0.0.1 the starting range, and then the end range will be say 10.0.0.10. So those IP addresses we need to trace are not going to be used in our DHCP server, so those are excluded. Then we're going to set up our DHCP IP DHCP and then pool, and then we have to give it a name. I'm gonna keep it voila, Prometheus. That will be our DHCP pool name. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up the default gateway, default router 10.0.0.1, this IP address on FA0.0. And then we have to say what network, how many the network, so the IP addresses, the range that we want to send out to our clients will be 10.0.0.0, and of course the subnet will be 252.5.250. And yeah, that's all there is to configure. So what we're going to do now, exit, and yeah guys, we're done. So let's go to our client, going to his desktop, IP configuration, going to say DHCP, and there we have it. We have our IP address. Starts with 11, so the first 1 to 10 are excluded, so the first available address will be 11. Subnet and is default gateway, all correct. See, not so difficult to configure. But then we have this setup. So this router will be our DHCP router, but then we have another router, and those hooked up all our clients. And what the problem is, when we do a DHCP request and we wanted to get it to this router, we're not going to the packet will not arrive at the DHCP server, because it sends out this packet to the switch will send it to the router, and the router thinks, oh, there's a DHCP request, I don't know what to do with it, so it's going to destroy that packet. So what we're gonna configure on this router is an IP helper address, so that it knows that it needs to send that packet, a DHCP request, to this router. Again, the IP addresses are going to be 10.0.0.1, 2, and this will be a different range, 10.0.1.1. So let's get started with our first router. We're going to enable config t, and then we need to set up again, like for example IP DHCP, exclude those addresses named 10.0.1.1 until 10. Those are excluded. And then we're going to do IP Dhcp pool Nostromo, and then it will be the default router will be this IP address, so 10.0.1.1 default gateway, and then the network will be 10.0.1.0 255.255.255.0, and that's it. But what we also need to do is make sure there is a routing protocol. If there's not a routing protocol, it does not work. So what we're going to do is router rip. I'm going to say version 2, and then we're going to add 10.0.0 network 10.0.0, and that's it. Now we need to set up our second router. Remote, and then also need to do router rip version 2, and then 10.0.0.0 with, of course, keyword network in front of it, and then or 10.0.1.0. That's it. And then we need to set up the helper address. So we're going to our int fa0/1, which is hooked up with all our clients, and then we're gonna say IP helper address, yes, and then the IP of our DNS server 0.1. That will be the helper address, and then we're done. So now our client should get a dynamic IP address, but the first one will always, it takes a while until it's really configured. You see, we're now getting a IP address 10.0.1.11 and a default gateway. So yeah, it works. What you could also do is, instead of this router, you can also set up a Dhcp server. This router will have the same functionalities. Its helper address will be this server, but you don't need a routing protocol. So what you can then do is set up configuration Dhcp, then the default gateway, the DNS server, starting IP address, the subnet, and the maximum of clients, and then you have to save that protocol, and of course give it also a static IP address. So yeah guys, that is the tutorial about Dhcp. I hope you enjoyed it, and I see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.